I get it, you're staring at your current NAS rack, seeing those half-filled drive bays, and wondering whether you should just keep buying larger single-unit boxes or actually add a dedicated expansion chassis. It's a classic spend now or regret later moment, especially when you've got projects that could quickly balloon into terabytes, let alone petabytes. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk through the real-world pros and cons so you can decide if the QNAP TLR2400PES is the right move for you. First off, this isn't a standalone NAS, it's a 24-bay JBOD that lives off a host QNAP system. That distinction matters because you're essentially buying a massive, rack-mountable bookshelf for your drives, not another all-in-one box with its own processor and OS. If you already have a QNAP NAS that's hitting its capacity ceiling, the TLR2400PES can slide in like a puzzle piece. The chassis talks to your host through a Mini-SAS HD SFF8644 port, offering two connections, one for input, one for output, so data streams straight from the NAS to the drives without a middleman. In practice, that means you won't see the extra latency you sometimes get with networked expansion units that have to hop through Ethernet. Let's talk about who actually benefits from this setup. Imagine you run a post-production studio that ingests raw 8K footage daily, or you're a research lab archiving massive data sets. Those environments need to stack hundreds of drives, and they already have the rack space, cooling, and power budgeting to handle a 4U unit. The TLR2400PES gives you 24 SATA slots that all speak the 6 gigabits per second standard, which is more than enough for spinning disks that hold petabytes of data over time. The redundant power supplies are a quiet hero here. If one PSU fails, the other keeps the whole chassis alive, and because the power switch is linked to the host NAS, you can shut everything down with a single command, no hunting for a separate power button in the back of the rack. Now, if you're a home user who's only looking to add a few more drives for a media server, this is probably overkill. You'd be paying for rack space, redundant power, and a 4U footprint that you'll never fill. In those cases, a smaller 8-bay expansion or even a new larger NAS model could make more sense. The same logic applies if you're on a tight power budget. While the redundant PSUs add reliability, they also double the baseline power draw compared to a single supply unit. The chassis doesn't have built-in fans that you can manually control. It relies on the host NAS's fan profile and the rack's airflow, so you'll need a decent cooling plan to avoid overheating on a full drive load. One of the practical strengths of the TLR2400PES is the cost per terabyte you achieve when you compare it to buying a fully featured NAS with the same number of bays. You're essentially buying a chassis and the power redundancy, and you get to slot in whatever drives you already own or can buy in bulk. That flexibility is a real money saver for businesses that already have a stockpile of SATA drives or can negotiate bulk pricing. The Mini-SAS HD connection also simplifies cabling. A single high-density cable runs from your QNAP NAS to the chassis, keeping the back of the rack neat and reducing the chance of a loose connector causing a drive outage. On the flip side, the TLR2400PES isn't a plug-and-play solution for everyone. Because it's diskless out of the box, you have to source and install the drives yourself, which adds an extra step that some less technical users might find daunting. The chassis also lacks its own management interface. All monitoring and alerts have to be handled through the host NAS's admin tools. If your NAS is already maxed out on CPU or memory, adding a 24-bay expansion could push it into a performance bottleneck, especially when multiple users are pulling large files simultaneously. In that scenario, you might need to upgrade the host's hardware as well, which adds to the overall cost. Another nuance worth noting is the physical size. At 4U, the TLR2400PES occupies a full rack slot, and you'll need to make sure your rack has the depth to accommodate the drive trays and the built-in power supplies. Some data centers have depth restrictions that could force you to buy a deeper rack or a different chassis altogether. Also, the chassis is designed for 3.5-inch SATA drives, so if you were hoping to use high-speed NVMe or 2.5-inch SSDs for a fast cache tier, you'll be out of luck. It's a storage-only solution, which is exactly what many enterprises need, but it's not a hybrid that can double as a high-performance tier. So, summing it up, the QNAP R2400PES is a solid, purpose-built expansion chassis that shines when you have a QNAP and AS already in place, a need for massive, cost-effective SATA capacity, and the rack infrastructure to support it. You'll love the redundant power supplies, the tidy Mini-SAS connection, and the ability to scale toward petabyte level storage.